Helps if I turn the microphone on, doesn't it? Hello everybody and welcome to the stream. It's nice to see some people back here, see some names that I recognise. Hopefully we'll get a few people in. It's wonderful to see people who are here in person, but it's also great if you're watching this back video on demand. Thank you very much for joining me for that as well. So yeah, that's great. I'm just going to sort this out so that I can see a bit better what's going on. Move it over here. Hello Bellarian, it's good to see you again. Welcome back. You may notice that I don't have my green cutting sheet in front of me today. That is because I cannot find it. Good professional start to my stream. It's all good. It's all good. So, welcome. I've got two main things that I'm going to be doing on my stream today. Plus all the usual chatting, answering questions, just kind of hanging out, which is great to have you guys here for. So the two main things that I'm going to be doing is, if you were with me on my stream last week, you will have seen me making a start on my Hill Giant from Wizkids. It has moved on a little bit since you last saw it. So if you recall, we were looking at the skin tones last week, and those are in place, but we also have lots of other bits and pieces going on the miniature. Still lots to do on there, so I'll be cracking on with quite a few bits and pieces on there today. You can see the base isn't done. I haven't picked out any details on the face, anything like that. The top of the club here isn't done either. So I'll be working on some of that. I'll also be working on the backpack, which, as you can see, has we've made a start on that, but still quite a bit to go to make sure that it's as exciting and kind of vibrant and got some good contrast on there. That's what we like to see. But you can see there's definitely been some progress since we were last on there. So I'll be carrying on with that. The other thing that I'm going to be doing, and I'm actually going to kick off with this because I think it's going to take a few goes through the time that I'm on with you. But I'm going to be trying out this liquid frost from Green Stuff World. It's not something that I have ever used before, but it promises to just kind of, you paint it on, and then as it dries, it looks like frost. So it kind of has that crackling ice look that you would get without, not necessarily so much snow, but definitely that kind of icy frost, which is great. This is an early Christmas present, so I'm very excited to get cracking with this. Get it cracking like the snow. Yeah, we'll move on swiftly. So yeah, but because I've never used this, I don't really know exactly how it works, so it's going to be a bit of an experiment, which you guys will be able to see how I get on with it. So for this, to test this out, I've got an older giant, which I painted a while ago. So this is a Reaper giant, and you can see there's some snow on the base there. But overall, if you didn't see the base there, you wouldn't really know that there was much going on snow-wise, anything like that. So I'm going to put some of the liquid frost on the base, but I'm also going to put some on the mini itself to try and kind of tie it together a little bit. The metal, I think, will be a great kind of medium for putting some of that stuff on. So hopefully that will tie it together. This mini I painted years ago now, which is a funny thing to say. I still think of myself as being relatively new. I've probably been painting for about 4 years now. So yeah, we'll get cracking on that and see how it does. As I say, never used it before, so it will be an experiment. So I have with me here, so this is just an old, it used to be a mini blister pack, and I'm going to use this as my palette for this because I just don't know how it's going to react. I don't know if I put it on my wet palette, I don't want to mess that up, anything like that, and it's also quite nice and contained here, so this will be good for that. And I'm also, again, until I know how it works, I don't want to expose my good brushes to it, because, you know, sometimes these technical paints can wreak havoc with brushes and things like that. So I've got a really old brush here. It's old and knackered and the point's gone, but it doesn't really matter because I'm not looking to do really precision work with it. But as I say, I think from the little videos that I've seen of how this works, it looks like it takes quite a few layers and quite a lot of drying time to get how we want it. So I'm going to get cracking with that first, so that hopefully we can take another look. So hopefully we can get a look at how that's beginning to look by the end of the stream. That would be ideal. Yes, give a brush frostbite and all the little bristles fall out. That's not what we want, is it? So we give it a good shake, as always with these things. Now, from the video I've seen, I think it comes out fairly clear. Now I think it's basically a salt solution. Hello, hello. So we're just going to chuck it in here as my temporary thing. Oh, it's kind of milky white. You can kind of see it there. So I don't really know how much of this I need, but as noted, it's all a bit of an experiment. So we'll have a go. I'm going to start by putting some onto the base itself, just to see how that works. But I'm also then going to pick bits across the Mini to pick out as well. And yeah, it kind of goes on as, I mean, you've seen that it's kind of milky white, so that's kind of how it looks on the Mini as well. But we'll see how that looks. It's once it starts to dry really that this is the key with this. So yeah, we'll just slap some of that on there. Now I am told that it also works for like the bushes, the little tufts, things like that. Now on this one I actually used kind of snow-covered tufts to begin with, so I'm not going to put it on there because I don't want to kind of mess around with that. But it does apparently work on those as well, which is great, and that's what we like to hear. But we'll avoid them for the time being. It's going on very nice and smoothly. It's flowing very easily and all that good stuff that we like from a paint. But I'm going to venture up the Mini. I think a bit of frost on the hide on the legs will look good. And I think that, as I say, it does apparently take a while to kind of dry and give you the effect. So because we're putting on multiple layers, it means that I can put a little bit on in some places, and I can put an absolute load on in others, and we can see what difference it makes. So we'll get this on here. And yeah, as I say, this is a bit of an experiment. Fortunately, this is not, you know, as I say, I painted this Mini quite a few years ago now, so it's not like it's massively dear to my heart or anything. But so if it does look a little bit odd afterwards, then that's not too much of an issue. But I think, as these things tend to do, I'm going to kind of do it in some areas and not in others. I went out for a walk this morning and was slipping around all over the place because there's plenty of ice around in Scotland at the moment. But you know, as you will know from going out yourselves, when you go out, it will be patchy. It will be, you know, where the sun's hit, all of those kind of things that, or where the sun hasn't hit, that you get the ice. So you will, you know, be a little patchy in terms of how I apply it, because I want to replicate that look. Always really with the kind of what you might think of as like special effects on miniatures. You don't want to go absolutely all over, because it ceases to be a special effect and just becomes a layer on top. But well, since we're testing this out, I'll go pretty heavy and see how it looks. And yes, it is very cold here today, so hopefully this will dry in a reasonable amount of time. I think because it's a salt solution, I'm trying to think back to my school days. I do have a degree in science, so you'd think I would have some idea. But I think it's when it evaporates and it leaves the kind of salt behind as a residue. This is what we're looking for. Yeah, I think we've got a good kind of amount going on here. I don't know if it's going to do the same effect in my palette, so I have to be a bit careful. But at the same time, you don't want to chuck it on so thick, that's all you can see. So we'll go back, put a bit more on the base, try and get a nice frosted look on the ground, because I think that's the most likely place to have got it. As I say, this was an early Christmas present for me, which I'm very excited to get cracking on. So I've only had it in my possession for a couple of days and done a little bit of research on YouTube and the like to get an idea of what I'm doing. But often the best way to do these things is just to kind of have an experiment and see what works for you and what doesn't. Okay, so I think we're looking pretty good for a first coat here. Should we make his beard a bit icy? That sounds like fun, doesn't it? Well, I mean, not for him probably, but I don't like the sound of an icy beard myself. Okay. Okie dokie. Right, so I'm now going to leave that for a little while I get on with my other giant, my hill giant, and we'll check in on that, and I'll probably put another coat of that on in a little bit, and yeah, we'll just kind of see how it works. And if it hasn't quite made it by the end of the stream, then I'll post some pictures up afterwards so you guys can see what happened with it. There we are. Right, I'll keep this brush separate. As I say, it's always a good idea to keep separate a brush that you're doing kind of experimental stuff with, just in case you don't want to mess up what you're working on that basis. Okay, so that guy's now doing his thing, and we'll see what happens. And in the meantime, we'll go back to this guy. So this is the Wizkids giant that I was working on last week. And I think the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do something on his base. Now, my plan, because he's a hill giant, my plan is to have some green grass on there, because he's not a mountain giant, which makes me think of just like bare stone. But at the same time, there are a lot of stones that you can see already on that bit of base. So what I'm going to do is stick some stones on to the black area of the base, and then we'll get all of that painted up, and then I'll put some grass on alongside that. Because the danger otherwise is it all ends up looking like he stood on a little bit of rock and then you just put some green around it, and it doesn't really tie in together. So I've got some stones right here. These, another little advert for green stuff. Well, there you go. That's clearly a reused bag. These came off the side of my house. So the house that we have has these kind of little stones all through the paintwork, and they're consistently falling off. So every so often I go around and do a little sweep up and use these because they're great for little miniature stuff. And I also have some big old chonky stones here, which I got from a walk on the beach, I think. Without wishing to denigrate Scotland too much, it's good to have an activity when you're on the beach in Scotland. You don't want to freeze. So we've got a mixture. Yeah, exactly. Pebble Dash. Thank you. So yeah, we've got a mixture of these slightly bigger stones and the smaller stones. So I think probably what I'm going to do, and I've also got my super glue here. If I was covering the whole base in like gravel and stuff, I would use PVA glue. But because I'm just doing like one or two little stones here and there, I'm going to just stick them on with super glue, partly because given that the other thing is currently drying, I don't want to just spend the whole time of my stream just waiting on things to dry, and super glue is much quicker drying than PVA, so we'll get that going on. So yeah, I think probably, let's see, what have we got in here? That looks like maybe a good size on there. Gives that a bit of a little thing there. As I say, it's really just the goal of this for me is just to tie the base together so it doesn't look like I've just stuck a plastic based thing onto a larger base and then ignored it for the rest of it. So I'll get that on there. Let's see, maybe I'll get a bigger stone on the back as well. Some of these are huge. I'm not going to use the largest of these on there, but some slightly bigger things. Oh, that's a nice big one. Let's stick that on there. And then, yeah, the key then is to kind of actually bring the colours together so it doesn't just look like you've stuck a couple of stones on a base. But we'll work on that in a bit. So let's get that super glued down. And, you know, I'm being pretty relaxed about where these go. The idea is not to be precise and perfect with them, but just to kind of give the illusion of some stones breaking through the grass, as it will be when the time comes. So we'll just get a few of these smaller ones. And honestly, some of the, because I'm going to be sticking grass on a little bit, some of the smaller ones will barely actually show through the grass, but it just shows that there's something under there, and that it's not, you know, you've kind of thought about it and thought about what's going on there. So we'll just dot these around using my super glue. Yeah, definitely you could do this using PVA if you wanted to, but I'm nothing if not impatient, and I want to be able to get on with it. Obviously, I'll give it a little while anyway before I start painting anything around here, But with PVA, I feel like even just like tipping it at a strange angle to get to a bit to paint can be a bit dicey. So yeah, I go through industrial amounts of super glue. And now it needs a shake. Yeah. So while I shake my super glue and while I wait for some other bits and pieces to sort out, I thought I would have a little talk about what my plan is streaming wise and other things wise for next year. So I released a YouTube video yesterday, which kind of talks through all my plans for next year. So if you haven't seen that, I would encourage you to check it out. You can find me on YouTube just by searching for Goblin Squire. I don't yet have my own chosen URL, but we'll get there. We'll get there slowly. So yeah, check that out. But I'm going to be doing 4 streams a week next year. I like to give myself challenges. So I'm going to be doing 1 stream a week, which is specifically focused on Reaper miniatures. So one of the other things I'm doing next year is I'm going to take part in the Reaper Challenge League, which is well, I'm glad that you like more content. If you put in less content, then it's not ideal. But yes, I'm taking part in the Reaper Challenge League, which is essentially just a series of challenges from Reaper Miniatures, the company themselves, to lots of little prompts and things to get you painting. So I'm going to be doing that, and I'll be looking at. I'll be doing some painting. I'll be doing some bits and pieces. Choosing my patrons will be helping me choose my minis for next year. So if you're interested in following me on Patreon, do check that out. Again, just search for Goblin Squire. So that will be one of my streams. My second stream of the week is going to be a focus on small creators. So I love getting the kind of weird and wonderful little creators around the place, getting minis from them, kind of looking at that. Obviously, again, very painting heavy. I'll be painting at that, but I'll also be doing some kind of unboxing, looking at the different companies and things which are around. Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much for that YouTube link. Yeah, so I'll be looking at those small companies. I will be doing painting for them, and again, fitting into another challenge that I'm doing next year is to do with the Goblins of Mordor, which is Michael Mordor's kind of community, and that's that I will be painting 1 miniature every day for 2021. Even just saying it sounds a bit scary. So that's 365 miniatures. And I'm going to be trying to throw in as many of the kind of small creators minis and things in there as I can, just to try and as much as I'm able to put a little kind of spotlight onto what they're doing and share that with you. So yeah, that's my second stream. I'll still be doing a League of Legends stream, so I'm going to be continuing to do my Noob Learns League of Legends stuff. So if you're interested in just watching me die repeatedly at a computer game, you can check that out. That will be on Wednesdays still. I'm also going to be doing a Saturday morning stream, which is going to be a bit more relaxed. It's going to be a bit more free form. I'm going to have guests on there. Andy from Geek Curio has already said that he'd love to come on, but I'd love to have other people on painting with me, just chatting, talking about hobbying, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be my Saturday morning one. So I think I'm going to be keeping myself quite busy because I'm still going to be doing all the YouTube, all of the yeah, I'm going to be doing Goblin Squire Investigates, Goblin Inspiration, all those things as well. Yeah, so I'm just going to be kind of plugging away all that stuff. But you can see here, I've got these attached now. They look a little bit bare at the moment, but as I say, they'll get some paint on them, and they'll also get the grass around them, so that it kind of, the idea is just to tie it in with that base that's at the bottom there. So yeah, that's all good. That's all good. Okay. Next up, you can just about see it here. I managed to get some of the green paint onto his shoulder, just like in there somewhere, which I'm going to try and just get rid of very quickly before we move on to other things, because otherwise it will just continue to annoy me the entire time I'm painting the mini. But I'm hoping, yeah, my wet palette has been a beauty, and it's kept all the paint that I used last week nice and fresh, so I can just use that same paint. Don't have to mix together the paints again, because that would be a bit of a nightmare trying to get the paints together. I do need to get a little bit of water on there just to get that flowing, but we've got some of that there. I want to keep it nice and watery because I don't want to make big, strong statement lines on there. What I want to do is kind of gently cover up my mistake. In part because just with the green there, we can always just have that as shadow because it is tucked in under the rucksack, the bag there. So yeah, we'll get some of that going on and get nicely in there, and slowly we just cover that up. So eventually you won't be able to see it at all. You can already see it's fading slightly. I do need to let things dry in between. I feel like that's going to be the story of this stream, just letting everything dry. And I'll sing you some Christmas carols in a bit. It'll be fun. No, I don't think we want that. But we'll get some paint on there, and kind of you can still see the green, but it's starting to disappear, starting to just look a bit more like the shadow that we've already built up under there. Yeah, that's looking good. So we'll give that a minute to dry again. The other thing that I have been putting off doing really on this mini is picking out all the little bits of the kind of netting that goes over the top. So I'll keep my fingers away from the bit of skin that I've just painted. But you can see here that underneath is a kind of green tarpaulin-y kind of colour. Again, I wanted it to look a little dirty on the basis that this is, after all, a hill giant. It's not, you know, a Cub Scout going camping or something. So it is quite dirty, but I want the netting over the top to really show up as a contrast. So that's going to be the next job for me. And we'll have a go at that now. And I'm not sure what I've done with the brushes that I had here. So we'll have a go with another brush and hopefully not make too much of a mess of it. I had a nice precision brush to do, but as it is, I'm just going to have to go with a slightly less precise brush. But before we do that, I'm going to check in on our giant. And yeah, it's still quite wet, but you can just see on the heel it's just starting to evaporate and kind of turn crystalline like we're hoping for. And it started to do a little bit on the rocks there in this corner as well. So it's just starting to, but we'll give it plenty more time. There's no hurry on that. Okay, so for the netting over here, I'm going to use Sandry Dust from Games Workshop. It's a very light kind of brown. It kind of makes me think of like a khaki brown, or khaki if you're American. It's that kind of light brown, which I think, because one of the challenges with this giant, as I was saying before, is there's a lot of brown on there, and what I want to do is be able to really distinguish each brown from the next. I don't want it to just be a kind of continuous wash of the same brown. So I've obviously got the dark on his shorts, or are they just trousers that don't quite get there? I'm not sure. Either way, we've got that. We've also got the brown on his backpack and the brown on his like staff there. So I think this will provide a nice contrast to all those other browns. So we'll give it a good shake, as we always do. Get that going in there. And we'll put it in the wet palette again, because I don't want to have to work this too hard, because it is quite precise, this work. I don't want to have to be fighting against viscous paint to do that. So we'll get some nice paint out there on the palette. And we'll give it some water. Oh, hello. In answer to the question about knowing how many paints I had in my collection, unfortunately, or knowing how many brown paints I had in my collection, unfortunately, my collection of paints is suitably vast. I am a sucker for buying new paints. So actually, a miniature like this is perfect for me to be able to say, aha, my collection of 58 brown paints that I own. It's yeah, it's a bit of a problem I have, but it's all good. It's only a problem if it negatively affects you, and it's fine. It's just because I haven't had a a job for 18 months. It's not like spending money on paint's a bad idea, right? We probably shouldn't go down that line. Okay, so yeah, I'm starting to just pick out this netting. You can see there, it's already kind of showing up a little bit on there. I've only done one line. So fortunately for me, this is quite nicely raised against the green underneath. So we can just pick those lines out. It's a little time consuming, but I think the effect at the end is going to be really good. As I think I mentioned last week when I started this mini, the picture on the box on the back of the packaging is so uninspiring, which I think is a real shame, and it doesn't have any of these kind of differences and little bits picked out. So I'm keen to do that if I can, get that looking awesome. Yeah, so my understanding of what's going on here is that there is a kind of green tarpaulin-y type setup underneath that's being held in place by this netting. So we'll keep picking that out. So you got a shout out a little earlier, Andy. I was mentioning about my new timings, my new stream plan for next year, and I mentioned that you'd already were talking about maybe being part of my Saturday stream, which would be awesome. I'd love to have you on there. I know we are both doing the one mini a day for 2021, and yeah, it's always just good to kind of catch up and chat, and yeah, it's one of those funny things. There's so many people around, particularly in this last year since the quarantines and the lockdowns and everything else. There's so many people all over the place that I've had so many good conversations with, so many mini painters around the place that I've never actually met in person. And yeah, I'd love to just kind of have those chats. Andy has been really kind and friendly all the way through, and I've had a bit of a difficult year, but Andy's been great and been a good friend throughout. So it would be really good to kind of have that. It'll be actually the first time we've had a spoken conversation rather than a written conversation. So yeah, that would be really cool. And yeah, I think so. My Saturday morning stream next year is very much going to be kind of whatever I feel like, whoever I want to chat to, whatever I'm doing, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'd be happy to do an interview with you, Andy, at some point, which works for you. That sounds good. In case you haven't come across them, Andy does a series of interviews with miniature painters and people in the hobby, and just all around good people in the community. So it's an honour that he would ask me to do an interview. But yeah, you can check them out on YouTube. There's some really interesting conversations, people in there. Oh. This is one which I'm glad I've got my new glasses for, so I can actually kind of see what I'm doing on this. It's pretty small, detailed work. So this is going to be my last stream of the year. I'm not now doing a League of Legends stream tomorrow. If you saw my last stream, I got verbally abused by various League of Legends players for basically being rubbish, which is kind of the whole point of my channel and my stream, really. But we'll give it a rest just before Christmas. But yeah, I'll be back in force in the new year. You won't ever hear the end of me. I'll be doing hundreds of streams and videos and all sorts. I'm also looking forward to, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, getting my patrons to help me pick some minis that I'll be painting next year for my 365 minis in 2021. Yeah, unfortunately, I do enjoy playing League of Legends. I'm just going to go briefly back to the comment around abuse, but it has a reputation for having a fairly toxic community playing it, and unfortunately, you can often see why that's the case. I'll be honest though, I do play a game yesterday or today. I can't remember how time works at this point. Time no longer functions in lockdown, I've decided. But I played a game, and to be honest, again, I played pretty rubbish. But people were so lovely and friendly and encouraging. So not everybody who plays League of Legends is a horrendous human being. I suspect it's like most things, really. Most walks of life have just horrendous human beings around. And yeah, it's just a little bit more visible in certain places than others. So yeah, I did have a nice game. To be honest, I don't normally really let it get to me. I know I'm rubbish. It doesn't matter if people tell me that I am. Why should I care? I always do my best, and I don't think anyone can criticise me for that. So yeah, but as I say, that's all kind of part of my learning experience, really. As I've mentioned, the kind of goal of the League of Legends stuff is that I am a relatively new player, and I'm learning, and I want to get better and figure out how to do it and share that learning journey with people. And part of that, you have to start rubbish. So that's true of everybody. If nobody was new, the game would die out, and they wouldn't have people to shout at and play with. So what can you do? Okay. So I feel like I'm making progress on this netting. So we'll kind of take a step back, and you can see there that it is starting to kind of show a bit of contrast. What I might do actually, just to heighten the contrast a little bit more, is once I've done this, is put some dark green wash into those recesses and really heighten that a bit more, because obviously we want to be within reason. We want that contrast to be nice and high so that it's really obvious what's going on, and there'll be a bit of shadow coming in underneath, which is kind of what we're looking to replicate. So we'll press on with this, and it'll give plenty of time for the liquid frost to get working on the other giant as well. So yeah, but yes, so today is my kind of last stream, as I mentioned, and I'm fortunate enough that it's also my wife's last day of work for a few days. So we're going to have some chilled out time, and we are socially bubbled with someone who I suppose I'll also enjoy spending some time with. So we're kind of doing a bit of a socially bubbled Christmas. Not going to see family, but very fortunate that in the modern day and age, obviously we Zoom and Skype and all of these things which make life so much easier. I mean, it does. The thought of having to do a kind of isolated Christmas, even 20 years ago, everyone on their own, and telephones have existed for a long time, but it's not quite the same. And I imagine bandwidth is going to be at a premium on around Christmas. But yes, it is. Even though I have told my family for like weeks and months that I wouldn't be travelling or going to see anyone over Christmas, it is really tough for those people who were, making plans and doing that, to then have those things cancelled on the last minute. So what do you think so far? It's hard to see, I guess, without everything else. The rest of the mini for comparison, but I think it's looking alright. Getting there, still a bit to do. But the fortunate thing is, as I mentioned with my wet palette, is you just kind of crack on and the paint stays there and does its thing. So, yeah, thank you all, very kind of you. This is the kind of thing I'm going to have to figure out a way to get quicker at next year when I'm having to do all of this kind of mini in a day. I think my plan for the mini every day is not to actually do start to finish on a mini every single day. I'll do that some days, and that is all part of the fun is doing that. But there will also be times where I start a miniature at the beginning of the week while other painting things are going on, and get it done by the end of the by the end of the week or something. So yeah, doing a big miniature while also doing smaller ones for the daily minis. I meant to put my Mighty Lancer Games referral code at the bottom of my stream thing. Nightmare. There you go. But I'm still drumming you up business, Mrs. MLG. Although, obviously, the fact that Andy was going to do it anyway, entirely irrelevant to the fact that we'll just say that I was drumming up business. It's fine. The good thing about streams, I have the platform to say these things, and you can only argue in the chat. Dear. Okay. Ooh, I'm getting a little bit messy there, so I'm just going to need to take a breath and slow down a little bit. I've been trying to speed up and get this done, but you can see a couple of areas there where I've just kind of gone into the netting. So I'll slow it down, but then I can always put a little bit of green in there just to re-establish that contrast at a later point. So always with these kind of things, it's a little bit of a challenge between my patience, not running out and doing something silly, but also making sure that it's kind of quick and efficient as possible. It is amazing to me how quickly some people can paint. I imagine everyone here will at least know of Michael Mordor, even if you're not sort of intimately acquainted with his painting. But the number of minis that he gets through in a day is... Oh, he's here! I didn't know you were there, Michael. But the sheer number of minis that he can paint in a day to a really great standard is just amazing to me. Here I am working slowly on this one bit of netting for hours on end. Well, let's hope for all of our sakes it's not quite hours on end. But it's that's one of the things that I'm looking to work on in 2021 with the miniature a day challenge, is kind of improving my speed without losing any of my accuracy and the quality of the minis. I see you've remembered how to at people. That's always good. So yeah, we're getting there now with this. So yeah, he's looking pretty good, I think, at the moment. Still quite a bit to go, but we're making progress, and that's the important thing. And I think I need to remember with these things, it's always about, in terms of the personal painting journey, it's always about just getting better, learning, taking things from one miniature to the next. It's not necessarily about every miniature being better than the last, but it's about that trajectory of improvement. And I shouldn't expect to be, perfect on any particular thing, but if I'm improving and getting better, then that's important. And I definitely think doing 4 streams a week next year and painting a miniature every day and doing all the Reaper things will definitely help me to achieve that goal. So that's looking pretty good, I think. Let's see. I'm going to put in a little more of that, and then it's going to be time to check in on that liquid frost and see how we're doing. And I think it might even just about be time to put the second layer of liquid frost on, which will be good. Right, so we're going to leave that for now, and then we'll see how we feel about it later on. So this is what the giant is looking like overall so far. So you can see, obviously we did the skin tones last week, and the trousers are pretty much there. I think I'll do some more bits and pieces on the kind of stuff he has hanging around there. That will need some work, but that's pretty good. And yeah, the rucksack's looking alright at the moment, I think. So That's looking good. So yes, I absolutely can do a liquid frost recap. So I received as an early Christmas present. I keep wanting to say birthday present. It would be a very early birthday present because my birthday's in October. As an early Christmas present, I received this liquid frost from Green Stuff World, and so this is completely new to me. I've never used it before, but I've done a little bit of research. I looked at some YouTube videos, things like that. So I have slapped on a first coat, and I'm kind of waiting for that to dry to see the effect. I think it's going to take a few layers. I think we're going to have to put some on and wait and repeat. But we'll see how it's doing. So this is the miniature that I'm trying it on. So I painted him many moons ago, but you can see that I've put some of the liquid frost on some of these areas, and it's starting to do that kind of crystallizing thing that I was talking about. So it kind of evaporates away and leaves that kind of crystalline structure there. So it looks like, and you can see on the weapon as well, just starting to crystallize there as well. So yeah, it's definitely starting to have an effect. I think I'm definitely going to need to put some more on. It hasn't yet started frosting up his beard, which is what I was hoping for. Oh dear. I promise you, this is not just a stream sponsored by Mighty Lancer Games. I don't just do this just to announce products that they're getting in or something. But yeah, so you can see that it's started, but I'm going to put some more on because I want to layer this up nicely. It's still doing okay there, but I'm going to put some fresh in there as well. Yeah, so given that this is my first use of this, I very much am kind of exploring it and experimenting with you guys at the same time. But I'm pretty pleased so far because I haven't put loads on. This is the first layer which has just been drying, which is now starting to kind of crystallize. I'm going to focus on his beard again because I like the idea of a frosty beard. Again, I should point out I don't want my beard to be frosty, but since I've shaved most of my beard off, it's not such an issue. Okay, so we'll get that going on there, and some more on the ground as well. I think you can see I put some of the I'm going to guess it might have been Citadel snow flock on there. I'm not sure. But you can see some of that. But now this is just starting to kind of tie it in a bit more together. So I'm going to put some on here, low to the ground. Get some on that one as well. I don't want to put on so much that it's starting to like obscure the details or anything like that. But I do want to, just have it starting to give that idea of frost over the top. I think, looking at the time, I think this might be something that I have to report back to you guys on at a later point, but I will definitely tweet about this. I'll put something in the into the Goblins of Mordor Discord as well. But so far, I'm really pleased with the way it's kind of giving that just frosty edge to everything. As I mentioned before, I am keeping everything separate, so it's just in an old blister pack container here rather than going onto a pallet because I don't know how it would deal with that at this point. But we'll keep putting some of this on. Oh, thank you very much. Chuck some of that on there. And I think so. I'm avoiding for the most part places where there would be direct body heat. So I'm not putting any of this onto the skin. Because I figure, particularly for a hill giant, they'd probably be kind of frost resistant or whatever, resistant to frost damage. Getting it on the armour, getting it on the boots, that kind of stuff as well. And it has started actually, even those areas where the crystals haven't really been forming, there is a little bit of kind of shine going on those rocks and things. So far, I've been very impressed, but we'll see. Some on the fur, because that's a good place for attracting frost. Yeah, I'm just trying to kind of think about if it were in real life, you know, if there were a giant wandering about in real life, but where would the frost kind of accumulate? Where would it be most likely to be seen? So I think actually, I don't think I did last time, but I think I'm going to give him a little bit on his helmet as well. This is a family stream before anyone says nothing. Yeah, we'll put that on there, and hopefully that will just give it a little bit of a frosty look. I think I want to keep the yeah, that's true. Actually, make some frosted windows. I think that's. I've got loads of kind of clear perspex because I've got an old like cathedral ruin, which I really want to put windows in and kind of do stained glass windows. But I think having some kind of frost just touching them as well would be really nice. Okay, so we're gonna leave that to dry again for a bit, and I'll show you that again before I finish the stream. So there's some places that I'm just doing a very slight covering, and there's others that I'm going to do a nice thick layer of frost so that it really gives you that good effect. So I'm going to go back now to the hill giant, switching between giants today. And just put my thumb straight into the nice frosted stuff that I just painted on. Smooth, smooth. Fortunately, it doesn't need to be beautifully accurate, because that's kind of the beauty of a frost like that, is it will be patchy and in different places. So it's conceivable I'm just making excuses for being an idiot and putting my thumb in it, but I think it should be fun. So we'll go back to this guy here. So these stones are dried on now, so I can give them a paint at some point soon. I think first though, I'm going to do a little bit of a dry brush on this wood for his club. It's looking good, I think, but it's not quite as kind of dynamic as it might be. So we're going to go in and do a bit more dry brushing on there. Assuming I've got all the stuff I need. I'm not normally the organised type, which will be a great surprise to some of the people watching. But the thing with doing a stream like this is I have to think in advance about what I'm going to need, which is a challenge for someone like me. I can't just wander off partway through and go and fetch a new paint or a brush. Well, I mean, I could. I'm sure you'd understand. But right, where's me dry brush? Where's me dry brush? Oh no, I've just said that I was being organised, and now I've left my dry brush somewhere. Oh dear. Good. Well, hoist by my own petard or something. I'm just going to have a quick sip of my coffee. Okay, so maybe I won't do the dry brushing right now. Yeah, ask the cat to bring stuff in. She's not quite that well trained, unfortunately. Right, so in that case, ask and you shall receive. Thank you. It wasn't the cat, but someone else on the stream did just bring me some nice dry brushes. So the boss paid me a visit. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go in this time with some Baneblade Brown, which is a Citadel Games Workshop paint, but I think it will do a nice job of just kind of lightening up some of those extremities. I'm not going to go all over the wood with it, but I'm just going to kind of start to lighten those things up. Yeah, it's helpful having someone else around who's much more organised than yourself when you're doing these things. Okay, so we'll get the Baneblade Brown going, and as ever with dry brushing, we'll take off most of the paint, and we'll get back in there. So, oh yeah, I've just spotted on there the patch that I started covering up, so I'll have to do that more in a minute. Ah dear. I'm going to have to be more organised next year for my many streams. Figuring out in advance what I'm going to do with the help of my patrons. Yes, there will be Patreon polls every week to help me decide what I'll be painting on my streams. My Reaper Miniatures stream on a Tuesday evening, I'm going to get some help from the patrons, particularly for that one. The the spotlight on small creators one, I think will have to be a little bit more based on like what I have and what I can source and things. Um, at the moment I'm not really in a position to be buying myself lots more minis, but fortunately I do have quite a lot of miniatures around the place, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. So we've got this going on, and you can see there it's just kind of given it another level of dynamic. What I want to do with this is kind of make it look like it's old and like dead wood, and that often goes for that really dark base color, but with a lighter kind of color over the top. So that's what I've gone for there. Is very much that, you know, he doesn't look like the smartest tool in the shed. So yeah, we can just say that he's grabbed a stone and tied it onto the nearest stick that he could find. That would be awesome. I'd love a raid every now and then. That would be very cool. My plan is to watch sort of 50 minutes of your stream, Michael, and then jump off when I have to get my stream ready. So yeah, that's kind of my plan for those Tuesday streams. Yeah, I've had a whole re-evaluate of when I'm doing what and how I'm going to fit everything in, particularly with all the challenges and things that I want to do. I want to make sure that I have plenty of time for doing these things, and yeah, I have to say I've only really been doing it 2-3 weeks now. I've really enjoyed doing these streams. Just having people around to chat, and especially I think for a lot of people, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think a lot of people can kind of get on with doing other things and watch in, see how we're getting on, and just kind of chat away as and when, which I think is really nice. So yeah, that will be that's why I've gone to 4 streams next year. Yeah, keep myself out of mischief, hopefully. Might take more than streaming to keep me out of mischief, but you know, we do what we can. There we are. So that, I think, is going to be me done for now on the wood. So yeah, you can see it's really got that like dead, rotting almost a look to it on that branch, which is awesome. Good, good. Right, let's move on to the next thing. Where are we at? Oh, it's nearly 3 o'clock. Wow, doesn't time fly when you're painting and chatting? What I'm going to do is I'm going to have another quick go at covering up that splotch on his arm where I was careless and put green onto his skin, and then I will show you again the liquid frost, and we'll see how that's getting on. And as I say, I don't think it's going to be where I want it yet with the liquid frost, but I will let you know how it looks at the end and sort of how many layers it took as well, because it's great to get a good effect from something like that, but if it's, you know, takes 50 layers to get it where you want to, it's yeah, it's a lot of hassle for that. Yeah. Okay, so that's where we are, but you can see there is still a little nasty green smudge on his shoulder there where I was an idiot. Oh yeah, that would be very nice if we get some Reaper people turning up for that as well. My plan for that one, I can't remember if you were here when I was talking about that, Michael, but my plan for that is basically to focus on doing some of the Reaper Challenge League miniatures, or at least talking about them, figuring out what I'm going to do, that kind of thing. So there's going to be a lot of that going on that stream. So I'm looking forward to finding out what some of those are. For those of you who haven't heard about that, Reaper Miniatures are doing a challenge themselves, which they're setting. It's not a painting competition because it's not about who paints it best or anything like that, but it's just a series of challenges throughout the year to encourage people to paint. I mean, obviously it's by Reaper, so they're encouraging people to paint Reaper miniatures. But they have a whole series of categories, some of which you can do like one per month. So there's one which is like paint an NPC or a player character or something like that. So you can do one of them a month, and you just paint it, and then you kind of submit it to them, and they give you points based on the fact that you've done it. As I say, they don't judge how good it is and rank it from that point of view, anything like that. But it's purely like, oh, you've done this challenge, have 4 points, whatever it might be. And then throughout the year, they're doing kind of giveaways and raffles and things like that. So the more you have taken part, the more chance you have of winning the raffles. So it's a nice way of just kind of getting people painting and getting, people focused on those things. So that's what I'm going to be looking at really on those. And as I say, I do want my patrons to really help me pick out some of the minis that I'm going to be doing for that, which will be wonderful. So you can see that green splotch is now mostly gone, which is good because that was just my carelessness. Put that on there. Okay, wonderful. So another quick look at how he's doing all told. This is how we're looking. That's the netting that I was doing earlier. Yeah. I need to decide quite quickly what I'm going to be doing for my first minis of 2021, since I have to have the first one painted on the 1st of January. I think it will be good for me to think about what I'm going to do a little bit in advance and kind of have them ready. There's nothing more stressful for me than realizing at sort of halfway through the day that I'm meant to have a miniature complete and I haven't even decided what I'm painting yet. I think I've learned quite a few lessons from doing mini a day earlier this year. So I did it for about 3 months, which was great, and I did learn a lot of valuable things from it, and I think definitely those will come into play for this coming year when I'm doing a mini a day. And yeah, as I say, the worst days were those days where I got to basically the evening and I was like, okay, I don't have any idea what I'm painting today. I need to get something finished, and then it becomes a bit of a panic. So it's good to get those things figured out. But I will be giving that some thought, some serious thought between Christmas and New Year. Obviously not going anywhere this year, so it gives me some time to think about those things and start almost kind of lining them up ready to go when the 1st of January hits. Okay, so let's check in again on our Frosty Giant. Frosty the Giant Man. And yeah, you can definitely see it's starting to have an effect now. You can see down there on his, trying to think of a word that's more impressive than skirt, surcoat. Is that the bottom of his surcoat? I don't even know. But yeah, so that is the that's all from this liquid frost, as is the stuff on his boot down there. You can see it's starting. It's a little harder to see on this camera, but there's some on the metal as well, like the metal belt. There's some there. Just starting to get a little on the beard, not as much as I would like just yet. But yeah, I've been really impressed actually with how this is working. So this is only from 2 coats of this liquid frost. I think if you wanted a really heavy frost covering, you'd probably need quite a few. But they, again, you can see on the back of the fur on his legs, it's done really well from those 2 coats. It's really yeah, gone nicely there. You could do that with a dry brush, I guess, but I like the I do like the kind of brush on frost, and again on his back there you can see it on his tiny cloak. I'm not doing very well at describing pieces of equipment today, am I? But yeah, you can see there that it's definitely started to have an effect. So yeah, I'm very pleased with how it's going. What I'm going to do is do a couple more coats of that, I think, and then I'll share some pictures of that so that you can see really how that's looking afterwards. But yeah, good stuff. Hello, welcome. Yeah, what do you? I don't know. What is that? It's not a tiny cloak. It's a thing. Yeah, but either way, it's a bit frosty now. Yeah, could be. Yeah, but so that's yeah, off to a good start with that. I'm going to put a little bit more on while I kind of wrap up for the day, because I realised that I've done my hour, which is kind of what I said I would do. My plan for all of my streams in the new year is to no, all of my mini painting streams Yeah, oh, it does kind of look like a poncho. That's a great shout. My plan for all of my mini painting streams in the new year is to be around about an hour, with a little bit of flexibility for finishing things off, and you don't want to finish after an hour if you've got 5 minutes left before you finish a great piece or something like that. But yeah, so but my plan is for each of my mini painting streams to be about an hour. My League of Legends stream, I think, will probably be a little bit longer because it gives me a chance to get a couple of games in. Because at the moment, I'm not getting much chance to play when it's not on my stream. So yeah, we'll do that. But yeah, I think the hour is a good amount of time to get some stuff done. But like now, obviously it's 3:05, so I've gone slightly over an hour. But somewhere between an hour and a quarter probably will be my standard for a stream, I should think. Particularly for my Tuesday evening one. I don't want to be going on super late. I'm an old man now. I can't stay up for hours and hours painting miniatures. Great. So yeah, I will, as I say, I will keep you updated on how the liquid frost continues to progress. But in the meantime, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I won't see you on here again this year because this is my last stream, but hopefully I will see you on various other platforms and situations. Obviously, a fair few of you, I'll try speaking English words, a fair few of you will be on Michael Mordor's Discord, which is a great place to chat. I know some of you I will see on Twitter and the like and all those things. But I hope that over the next couple of weeks you find some time to relax and focus on that. There have been some good things about 2020. It's hard to conjure them up right now, but there have been. So I hope you can spend some time enjoying the holidays, whatever that means for you. But most of all, stay safe. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the new year. So thanks everyone. Bye.